Hi, today I want to talk specifically to the parents of seniors and to seniors about this message related to changing your schedule. So, I am talking about this in the context of it is currently the beginning of November. So, most of my seniors have filed their applications and are simply awaiting to ensure that applications are complete, and then eventually they will be hearing the news about whether or not they've been accepted. However, what happens a lot of times at this point in the year is seniors want to take their foot off the gas a little bit, so to speak. So, they've worked really hard to get applications submitted and they are just ready to be done. And in some cases, done with everything, like done with school, done with everything. It is time for them to move on in their minds and they are losing motivation, especially academically. So it's not uncommon that as the first semester starts to come to an end, students start to think about changing their schedule. Maybe dropping a class in second semester, maybe dropping down a level from an AP to an honors or something along those lines. Now, granted, not every school allows those kinds of changes. I'm just throwing it out there hypothetically about things that could be going on in your home if you have a senior who is ready to really hit the senior slide. What I have to remind everyone of is that when you fill out the applications, one of the questions that is asked is, what is your list of current classes? So as students are filling out their applications, they are listing all of the courses that they are enrolled in during senior year, which includes anything that is happening even in second semester. So colleges are aware of what the schedule looks like for senior year. And that is quite frankly part of the information they use when they're reviewing applications. What they're trying to figure out is, have students maintained a level of rigor on par with the type of work or the type of courses they were taking prior to this. So again, looking for that balance, making sure that the rigor is still there in senior year. In fact, I get asked a lot of times by students even going into senior year, why does it matter? Why does it matter if I take all these classes? Why does it matter if I'm still challenging myself? Colleges aren't going to see any of these grades. Colleges aren't going to see my courses. Well, they are. So again, this is part of what they're looking at, is how have you, the senior, continued to challenge yourself and make sure that you are taking the most rigorous curriculum that is suitable for you specifically. So again, back to my point. We get to this point of year, students are getting tired, they want to make changes. So again, you have told colleges when you applied what that list of senior year classes is, what you're registered for. You may, or parents you may not know, or your students may not know as well, is that most colleges have a very clear notation, and it's part of what you sign off on when you're that you will notify them of any changes that happen, not only to your curriculum, but there can be other changes. Today we're just focusing on curriculum. So when this happens, a couple of things. If you've already been accepted someplace and you are changing classes, you literally need to ask for permission from that college to make sure they are still going to offer you a spot in the freshman class if you are suddenly dropping classes or changing the overall rigor of your senior year schedule. If you have not yet been admitted, it's less about asking permission, but you still have to notify the college that you are making this type of change. So you will have to, whether that's through the portal that you've established with that particular school, or if there is a person, the rep for your area, that can be emailed so that they are brought into the loop about this. You have to give them that information that you are changing from XYZ classes to ABC classes, and then a new transcript actually has to be sent on your behalf from your high school. So that is something that generally happens at the mid-year point anyway. So if changes are being made and they are reflected on that transcript, then that helps speed up or smooth out the process with the colleges. But again, if a change is being made, whether you're asking for permission because you've already been accepted or you're just notifying the college of a change, it is still something that has to take place. So bear that in mind as if you're a parent, as you're working through this thought process with your own child. If you're a senior yourself, think about what repercussions this may or may not have overall in the big picture. Let me add at the last minute here that really changes to an elective course, sort of a filler class, like I can't even think of an example right this minute, but an art class, a drawing class to a photography class. or a drawing class to an automotive class even. I mean, those are not the kinds of things that are generally going to cause any concern. It is more about dropping down in levels of rigor or dropping classes altogether that might have been considered core classes, or are considered, might be, they are considered core classes. If you're dropping something like that because you realize you simply don't need that credit for graduation and it would just make life easier to not have AP Government, for example, then you probably need to consider how that might impact the overall impression of your transcript and your rigor when the colleges are still making a decision about you. So, just another nuance in this process that we cannot seem to streamline in the United States, but we are here to help sort it all out. If we can be of any assistance, please be in touch.